good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on what time of day it is that you are watching this. For me recording it, it is 1:35 a.m. on Thursday, the 8th of February, 2024. Just got off work about an hour and a half ago. Tried to record this once, ran out of memory, so it cut me off in the middle of a point that I was making, and so I had to go through my phone, delete a bunch of stuff, watch the original video, decided to go ahead and re-record it because I feel like recording a video right now. And also, I was listening to a podcast today, and the topic of addiction was addressed. I believe the question was, um, what advice would you give to a person on the path who is struggling with addiction? And you know, I on my next break sat down and wrote some things down, what it is that I think about addiction, because I'm not sure if it is saying too much to say that the human experience is dealing with addiction, or that dealing with addiction is the human experience. But I certainly think, I know for me, um, coming up with a way to deal with the tendency towards addiction has been a huge part of my experience here on earth in these last 37 years. I would say that on some level, whether you call it addiction or not, whether you realize it's addiction or not, I think probably every human ever, but almost certainly every American in modern times, it has to deal with addiction to some degree. And maybe it is just Americans in modern time, and maybe it's just because of the lifestyle that we've built here, brings out tendency towards addiction. But I do think that I've taken a good hard look at it, and I've come up with some thoughts on it that are, I think, worth listening to. So what what is addiction? First of all, I would say that one indicator that what you're doing. Okay, let me back up. First of all, you can be addicted to substances, or you can be addicted to behaviors. And so, like overeating would be being addicted to a behavior. Um, Binging Netflix, scrolling, being addicted to, scrolling social media, video games. These are all behavioral addictions. You could be addicted to substances, which is, more common. Obviously, everybody knows if you're, addicted to cocaine or alcohol or heroin, methamphetamines, caffeine, nicotine. These are substance addictions. But the mechanism of addiction, very similar for both, and the reasons, the causes, and conditions, very similar. So it's good, if you're dealing with addiction, to do a little bit of research on the particular type of addiction that you're dealing with, because knowledge is power, and the more information you have, the easier it will be to implement a successful strategy. But at the end of the day, um, the addictive behavior is all fairly generalizable. I don't know which way to say that word. It can be generalized. So one indicator that what you're doing is addiction, I would say, is if you're doing it without realizing that you're doing it. You're halfway through doing the thing before you realize that you're doing it. You sit, you get bored, you pull out your phone. Why am I on my phone? Was there something I needed? No. I just didn't want to be bored anymore. So you're fleeing some type of emotion. You're trying to escape a feeling. Um, that is a good indicator that what you're doing is addiction. Um, Also, it makes you unhappy is a good indicator that it's addiction. It's not something that you actually want to be doing. Like if you're calm and safe and fed, and you're sitting and thinking about what to do next, it's not actually something that you want to do. If somebody says, well, what do you want to do with your life? and it doesn't come up, and yet you find yourself doing it. You're like, I'd like to be in shape, I'd like to be thinner, I'd like to be healthier, and yet you're, drinking and overeating. Well, something's gone wrong here, because you've got, obviously part of you wants to do it, but part of you doesn't want to do it, and you have some type of schism. You don't have alignment within yourself, and so that's an indicator of addiction. So I'm not here to preach to anybody. I'm not here to tell anybody what's wrong or what's right. So if you are addicted, or you may be addicted, you're not sure if you're addicted or not, but you're happy, feel free. Feel free to do whatever you're doing. If whatever you're doing is making you happy, then feel free to do it. If you like to drink, if you like to snort rails, if you like to, watch television for days straight, I'm not here to stop you. I am here to tell the truth, and so I'm not going to pretend like alcohol isn't poison, because it is. I'm not going to pretend like watching, more than 4 hours of television isn't deleterious to your mental health. It is. But if your lifestyle is making you happy, I'm not here to try to get you to change. That's not the point. What I'm speaking to is people who are dealing with addiction and who are suffering. You you take a good self-assessment, you look at your behavior, and whatever it is that you're doing or consuming, that's more. That's more than I actually want. Like, I thought that I could drink a beer a day, and I find myself drinking 6, drinking 8, drinking a half a gallon of vodka a night. I whatever it is, it's more than you want. It's not making you happy. If you're unhappy and your suffering falls into the category of addiction, that's what I'm speaking to. So, if you are suffering, if your suffering falls into the category of addiction, what do you do? I think first you have to ask yourself some important questions. Is the addiction killing you? If the addiction is killing you, is it killing you quickly or slowly? If it's killing you quickly, you need to find help. You need to get help. You may be able to get help from friends and family, sure. But if you can't, you may need to check yourself into a facility. If you are going to die, it would be better to check yourself into a facility rather than dying. Okay? If you still want to die later, that's always an option. Like, if you save yourself from dying today, you can always die tomorrow. If you die today, living tomorrow is not going to be an option. So if you want your decision to be reversible, then you need to choose life. And if you are dealing with a heavy addiction to a substance or behavior that is killing you quickly, then the way to and you cannot stop or slow down, then the way to choose life is to just go ahead and check yourself into a facility. So, if it's that serious, swallow your pride. Stop telling yourself all the stories about all the reasons why you can't do it. Go to the facility, check yourself in. I promise you, it's not going to be as bad as you think. You can always, you live to change your mind at that point. But for most people, it's probably not that serious. Maybe it is killing you. Maybe it's cigarettes. Maybe it's alcohol. Maybe it's killing you slowly. Maybe it's not killing you. Maybe it's, binging Netflix and it's just wasting your life. Um, but whatever it is, it's making you unhappy. So good. So it's not killing you. So we've got some time. We can relax. We can take a deep breath. We can look at this. It's not going to kill us. or if it was going to kill us, we checked ourselves into an institution, and you know, now professionals are helping us deal with this. But we don't want to be checked into an institution. You know, we have responsibilities, we have lives to live. We're not trying to be in a mental hospital or a rehab if we don't have to be. So we've got this addiction, it's killing us slowly, or it's just wasting our time and making us unhappy. Well, then what do we do? Like I said, I've dealt with lots of addiction. I have quit smoking. I have I had a prescription for Adderall, which is amphetamine, which is basically speed, for years, and I got off that. I've quit caffeine. I've quit booze. I was drinking every day for years. Um, and I've quit all of these things. So my older brother drank himself to death um, at 37, which is how old I am now. So I understand addiction, you know, like firsthand, up close and personal. Um, and there's two things I think. This is what I have learned. There are two things. Okay, first of all, if you don't know about Rat Park, you should look up Rat Park. Basically, they were doing all these experiments on rats concerning cocaine, and they came to the conclusion that rats will almost inevitably get addicted to cocaine if they are exposed to cocaine. If it's available, the rats get addicted. But then this brilliant and empathetic scientist came along. And he said, "Look at the environment you have these rats in. They're in these cages, these sterile cages with nothing to play with. They're being held in isolation from each other. Of course, rats in the wild live in large groups. They live in these big families. They don't live, in individual under fluorescent lights, with nothing to play with, and just like this bland rat food. You know, they're bored. So of course these these rats are getting addicted to cocaine. They've got no pleasure in their life. They've got nothing in their life. So he built Rat Park, which was, had plants and the rats and the ability to interact socially, and all of this enrichment in their enclosure, and reran the experiments, and lo and behold, a very low percentage of the rats actually got addicted to cocaine. So, um, all that to say, the number one thing that you need if you're dealing with addiction, you're trying to simultaneously as you're trying to remove the substance or the behavior from your life, you need to get your needs met in a healthy way. Specifically, what needs am I talking about? I mean, yes, the healthier you are, the easier it's going to be to deal with any kind of addiction. So, eat right, sleep right, exercise. Yes, you're going to have a hard time dealing with addiction if you are not in a stable situation, if you don't feel safe. So, get your life shored up. Make sure that your housing situation and your work situation is good. You got to put some work into that. Yes, that's important. Most importantly, though, I'm talking about psychological needs. You need good relationships, you need meaning, and you need fun. These are needs. I'm going to tell you, it is a need. You need to have fun. Um, because we live in this world, and there's a high energy cost to staying alive. You've got to work for a living. Most of us, almost all of us, everybody that's probably watching this has to work for a living. And at a certain point, you're going to be putting in all of this effort just to stay alive. And if you're not doing anything fun, you're going to start to wonder why. What is the fucking point of all the work? What justification is there for all the suffering and all the work that you're putting in? And so you need to do things that you love to do. not things that are going to get you ahead necessarily. You need a certain amount of fun in your life. Go do some fun stuff. Maybe, I would say at a minimum every 8 weeks, you need to go do something fun. Go to a theme park, go to a festival, go to a concert, whatever it is that you like to do, at a minimum once every 8 weeks. Um, you need to do something meaningful. That might be raising your kids if you have kids. That might be volunteering at an animal shelter or a soup kitchen. You can type in volunteer and the town that you live in, and I guarantee you there will be many, many organizations that want your help. You can take a trash bag, you can go to the side of the road, you can clean something up. Do something meaningful. Um, the other thing is you need relationships. This can be a bitch because you can't make people be in relationship with you. It takes two to tango, as they say. And so, you know, it can be very discouraging, it can be very difficult. Our society is not well set up, but that being the case, you still need relationships. And so, sorry, but it's on you to find people and create relationships and strengthen the friendships that you already have. Um, so the friendships that you already had, you need people that you can tell good news to, that you can tell bad news to. You need people that you can reach out to in an emergency. You need people that you can talk to. So find the friends that you already have and try to deepen those relationships. Um, and one of the ways that you can do this is by asking your friends to tell you what their struggles are, rather than just going to them with your struggles. Ask them what their struggles are. This way, they tell you as much as they feel comfortable telling you, and then you react to that with acceptance. You don't judge them, you accept them. And, you don't solve anything. That's not the point. You just listen and you love them. And then the next time that you're going through something difficult and you feel alone, you'll remember the person that you listened to when they were struggling. And you'll know that you can go to that person and you can tell them what's on your mind. This is how you strengthen relationships. And so, whatever it is that you've got to do, get yourself a handful of people. You need more than one. You need good, solid relationships. And the reason why you need to make sure that your needs are met is because the addiction to the substance or the behavior is generally either an attempt to mask the pain of an unmet need or an unhealthy way to meet a need. So, you need, if if you're living a meaningless life, a lonely life, and a life with no fun planned into it, and you have the opportunity to get drunk after work or eat a pint of ice cream, why would you not do it? You're like one of those rats living in under the fluorescent lights in solitude. Of course you're going to get addicted to cocaine if it's available. It's the only possibility of any fun. So, as you are, you've noticed that this behavior, this substance is not serving you, and you don't want it in your life anymore, you need to make sure that you find healthy ways to get your needs met. Specifically, relationships, fun, and meaning. So make sure that you have those three things. The other thing, that was big number one, and big number two is uncomfortable feelings. You need to learn to deal with uncomfortable feelings. Addiction is often a way that we distract ourselves from an uncomfortable feeling. It may be loneliness, it may be boredom, but we're gonna feel things that we don't want to feel. And if our habit when we feel bad is to take some kind of action to make the feeling go away, to short circuit it, then two things happen. Number one, we get addicted. And number two, we never actually process the thing that we need to feel. And so, as unpleasant as bad feelings can be, boredom, loneliness, just general dissatisfaction, psychological pain, as uncomfortable as these things can be, we have to the way that you process it is by feeling it. And so you've got to learn, if you deal with addiction, more than likely you need to learn that it's okay to feel bad. It's okay. You feel bad and it's not going to kill you. You feel like you're going to die if you don't do something to change the way that you feel. And if you feel that desire, that want, it's sometimes for me it's just been like an unspecified want. I'm not hungry, I don't need anything specific. I just want. It's like it's a generalized wanting. It's just a hungry, sucking thing. I just want. What do you want? Doesn't matter. I just want. You fill that void with all kinds of different things. Or you can sit with it. And depending on what the addiction is, it might take days for that first wave to pass until the desire goes away. Like if it's if it's booze, if it's coke, if it's one of the more physiologically addictive ones, it might take a few days to stop wanting it. You might be in a solid wanting the substance for 3 days. But cigarettes, same way. But that wave will pass. And there may be more waves that come. But all of those waves will pass. And eventually, the waves will stop coming. Now, you'll never, as far as I know, you'll never not have negative emotion waves, but if you don't want to be addicted to things, you have to learn to just let the waves pass. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't make positive changes in your life, but you don't want to be driven by the negative emotion. If you're having a negative emotion, it may very well be telling you to change something about your life, and that is fine. But where it feeds into addiction is when it's like it's when that negative emotion is driving you. I've got to move. I've got to move. I've got to do something. I've got to do something to change it. It's like, no. If you feel like the negative emotion is going to kill you, let it. I'm serious. Just be like, okay, the voice in your head is going, we're going to die. This is the most awful thing. It's killing me. It's killing me. It's killing me. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll just die then. I'll just die of anguish. And then watch what happens. It's like grade school bullies, man. They don't get a rise out of you. They leave you alone. It's the same thing with the voice in your head that says you're going to die if you don't, go eat something or drink something or watch something or distract yourself in some way in order to get away from this feeling. No, feel the feeling, process the energy, man. Like, let it. So, So, to summarize, what I know about addiction from firsthand experience is that every specific addiction is a generalized addiction. And you're not, if you get rid of the specific addiction, great, and you should work on specific addictions, but you got to deal with that generalized addiction. And the generalized addiction is just a quality of wanting within yourself, and you have to learn to sit and allow it, and you have to not do things that you don't want to do in order to make it go away. Just don't get distracted from it. It will come, it will peak, it will pass. um, the other thing is that you need to meet your needs in healthy ways. And I know it's it's a lot sometimes. It can be a lot. But you just get up and you do it. And you figure out what your needs are, and you slow down and you pay attention and you look and you see. And yeah, it's a lot. And yeah, maybe it's hard, but it can be done. And yeah, maybe it'll take the rest of your life, but what are you doing? What are you doing that's more important than loving yourself? What are you doing that's more important than making yourself happy and than becoming the best version of yourself that you can be? What are you doing that is more important than getting free?